So, welcome everyone. Welcome to a new edition of Yo, it's the Kicks. So, it's your man AB. So, I'm excited to have a dope guest on the show. Got my man Haas, or better known as Hassan. So, I'm the host of my First Kicks podcast. So, he got a lot of dope episodes, a lot of great stories. I love his podcast, very authentic. So, it is really great, especially about the sneaker culture, but also he talks about a lot of great stuff as well and merge it all in one. So excited to have him as today's guest. Shout out to my man James Rich and Real Carter. They was on the show last week and we talked about burgers and J's. So excited to be back again with you all. Put in the comments if you have any questions as well. So we're gonna be talking about a lot of dope stuff today, everything related to the culture as well. So let me bring my man Haas on live with us right now.
What up? What up?
Yo, what's good? What's good? How's everything going?
Good, man. Staying busy. I'm actually in
Yeah.
the middle of editing my podcast for this week. So
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, thank you once again for hopping on live with us and talk about your podcast, my first kicks podcast. Talk about sneakers, the culture, how you got into it, and everything related around that. So how's the new year? Before we kick it off, how's that been going? Before staying busy.
yeah, I mean it's been good, man.
Yeah.
Starting off the year strong. I decided to switch it up a little bit this year. Did a solo
Okay.
episode, trying to get a little bit more into make like letting people know what's good with me instead of
I
just
feel
like
you.
focusing on guests. So it's just been different, like I think
Yeah.
that it's always good to try to start off the everybody's always like new year, new me, and I'm very not like that in general. I'm very like, oh, we just build on whatever momentum you've already,
Yeah.
accrued throughout. And so because I always think like if you're just like, all right, I'm gonna just change my whole life in the beginning of the year, I feel like nah, that's not how it's gonna work. It's all like we're all working to be a better us as we keep going. So that's like
Yeah.
that's that's basically like my mindset. And so I just been, coming out the gate, kind of like, focusing on the podcast and my day job, and that's it.
Yeah. And you know what? I love that solo episode because that's something that I've been going through as well. It's like, okay, I want to start creating solo episodes as well because I feel like, I want to
Mhm.
give my story out, And what I liked about the episode, you talked about building relationships, connecting with people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I go through as well. Like, that's one of my goals, right? Is to get out, network, connect with folks and stuff like that. But a lot of times I'll be stuck in my bubble, right? And you was mentioning that as
Hmm.
well. Like, just it's really hard, especially when it comes to creators. I feel like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to be stuck in that bubble. So, that's something that I want to do more. Is kind of like build those relationships as well with a lot of like-minded people. So
Hmm.
that was really dope part.
Hey, I mean, I appreciate that. I like the toughest
Mhm.
parts about like doing a solo podcast is like you don't. It's different when you're just like, is anybody
Yes.
listening to this? And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's like you're just there by yourself, like just going
Yes.
off. And I'm just like, is anybody gonna listen to this? And the after doing it and putting it out, I had like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but like, a bunch of people that listen to the
Yeah.
podcast did reach out and were like, yo, I really love this. You should do more. And I was just like, they take a lot out of me. I don't know about
It
doing it. Like
does.
somebody's like, do it one of my listeners are like, do it once a month. And I was just like, I don't know if I could do that. That's a lot of topics.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it does. It does take a lot. I
Mhm.
look at shout out to the homie Rob Martman, and I think he does a great
Yeah.
job with
Hmm.
having his episodes. He be doing the solo episodes and stuff like that, and talking about just music and all cool stuff related to that. And he's someone. But when I looked at, it, I was like, okay, that gave me inspiration. So shout out to the homie Rob Marmon, really dope. So, but definitely go into the genesis to the beginning of it because I know you mentioned
Yeah.
in one of your previous interviews that SB Dunks got you into sneakers and
Yeah.
got you really diving into the history of it. So talk
Hmm.
about what made that sneaker so special to you.
I mean, so basically I've always been like a skateboarder kid. Like
Mhm.
not like that I skateboarded, but that I love skateboarding. And so for me, I never really got the chance to like experience skateboard culture and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So like I always had like an affinity to be like, yo, I love S's, but like I never bought any. I would just buy Nikes. And then when I
Mhm.
found out that Nike actually did a skateboarding shoe, it just hooked me off the jump because I was just like, all right, we all love Nikes, we all love the swoosh, like it's iconic to us, and now you can skate them. It just kind of like
Mhm.
meshed its way into just being like, all right, this is my favorite shoe. And so from there, I was just like, I got my first job. I worked at GameStop. I was just like, I'm buy my first pair. I went to skate park of Tampa. I got the khaki SBs. And then from there, I was like, I need to do more research because apparently there's a colored box, and I didn't even know there was different
Mhm.
colored boxes. And then when you start looking up, oh, what is this? Then you're like, oh wow, there's a pink box. Oh wow, there's a silver box. And then you hear about like before SBs, and I just ended up on NikeSB.org on the forums there, and it was a lot of just like all the research like that I needed to do was all there, and so I
Mhm.
ended up just falling in love with SB, the community, because they were just like they weren't like, oh, you needed to skate in order to wear these shoes. There were people just like, oh yeah, if you love this, like, yo, do you know that this is a Mork and Mindy? Do you know about Mork and Mindy? Oh, do you know about Dinosaur Jr.?
Yep.
Do you know about the Melvins? And like, it was a lot more like, hey, this is the shoe, but yo, there's other meanings to it, and it just like opened this like curiosity gene inside me where I was just like, oh, I need to know about this. Oh, there's a Iron Maiden
Mhm.
dunk. I need to know about that. And then like you know about the
Iron
names,
Man
and
dunks. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So like yeah, it got me the bug right there after that.
And you know what's so cool about that? What
Mhm.
you mentioned was the skateboard shops, because at once upon a time, that's only where you could get SB dunks.
Yeah.
You couldn't just go in and just go into a store and get them. It had to be, they had to sell actual skateboards and stuff of that
Hmm.
nature. So, me being based in Nashville in Middle Tennessee, we had a skateboard shop called Rocket Town, and I believe it was
Hmm.
Rocket Town. It was on Sixth Avenue, and
Yeah.
that's where I caught my first dunks there. I would say not that my first dunks. Let me take that back. But I caught the Miss Piggies and
Mm.
the Pac-Man dunks,
Nice.
and it
Yeah.
was all under $100, which is
Uh-huh.
crazy when you think about it. Because now that's not the case at all, right?
Uh-uh.
So
Yeah.
SB's had that explosion, I would say, like to the masses, right? Because it's
Hmm.
always been popular in this bubble, I feel like. And the cool thing about that, and the crazy story about it, like I'm really into Air Force Ones now, but at once upon a time, Air Force Ones wasn't my thing. SB
Yeah.
dunks was just dunks in general, say specifically the SBs. But I had a
Hmm.
lot of SB dunks and just Nike dunks in general. And I still am a huge fan of the dunks, but it was like on a bigger scale back then. And
Hmm.
I feel like what kind of made it like a bubble and also still popular was because you had the blog era, right?
Yeah.
You had the blog era, and I feel like during that time frame, you had Nike Talk, you had
Hmm.
Soul Collector, you even had the hip hop sites like Two Dope Boys, just to
Hmm.
name a few. So discuss what made that era so special to you.
So like it's funny, I got like a different I'm from a different age. If you listen to my Brendan Dunn episode, you'll hear that I was
Mhm.
big into underground hip hop more than not like
Yep.
blog era rap. I was into like Def Jux and like all the like other underground stuff that was like before the Dat Piff era and before the blog era. And so
Yeah.
for me, music has always just been like digging for stuff. Like I need to find what's
Hmm.
gonna appeal to me. And so I found the blog era a little bit later than it was like at the height.
Okay.
Like I remember I used to be on the hip hop forums too because I used to want to be a rapper. I used to battle rap on forums.
Hey,
It's not
hey,
something I
no,
like
no,
to highlight.
hey, no, same here, same here. Like especially when Grind 2
Yeah.
going on, and when
Hmm.
URL came
Hmm.
back, which yeah, like King of the Dot stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I used to do that as well. So you ain't the old
I was
school.
on there. I was in the yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't really talk about it, but yeah, I really want at one point I did want to be a rapper real bad. But like the way that like the forums really like OK Player was like my favorite
Okay,
forum
player.
to always
Yes.
go on. That was like ran by Questlove and Don
Yes.
Will, a bunch of the guys there, because I grew up on neo soul, and so I love neo soul music, and so whenever I would look for music, it would always be like in that vein of like
Yes.
musically inclined, and also you're rapping on it. And
Yep.
to me, the blog era really wasn't never like that. To me, it was always like Lil Wayne freestyles and like people
Yep.
rapping on like beats that are already like nobody was really like making a beat and then rapping on it during this time. It was a lot of just like we rapping on the hottest beat right now, and then you hear it Tried by 12 for like for on a whole album, a whole mixtape was just
Yep.
everybody rapping on Tribe by 12, and that's it. you know?
You know what? Well, something that you mentioned, right? Because during that time frame in hip hop and just music overall, because you mentioned OK Player, Don Will, shout out to Tanya Morgan.
Yeah, shout out to
I'm
Tanya
a
Morgan, yeah.
huge shout out to Tanya Morgan. Shout out to the homie Von P. I had the pleasure
Shout
to
out
meet
Von P.
him.
Both have
Yeah,
been guests on my podcast.
yeah.
Shout out
I
to
had
those
Von
guys.
P on my show as well. So shout out to Von P. Great minds think alike. And the neo soul movie, Soul Aquarius. I think about that, right? I think
Yeah.
about
So
the
Aquarians.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Aquarius. So think about all of that great music. The late great Dilla, D'Angelo, the late great D'Angelo as well. Mos Def, Talib. So many great people and great artists as well during that time frame. So that definitely impacted me as well. That impacted me as well. So similar story, like it really is. And you mentioned Def Jux. I was just talking to one of my friends, and I said, Def Jux, if social media was around back then, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, because they was a powerhouse with LP. You had
LP.
Murs.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I remember going on undergroundhiphop.com. I mean, that's
Yep.
how I found out about Def Jux.
UGHH.
Yes. Yeah.
Shout out my guy Mike King,
Yeah.
man. Mike King.
Yeah.
Mike icon of Mike King. He owns
Yeah.
he owns that now. But like,
Yeah.
that's my time, bro. Like that's
Yeah.
me. That's like, yeah, Def Jux. I remember I met LP in high school when I was in high school at a A$AP Rock show, and A$AP Rock like did like a performance at the Virgin Megastore, RIP the Virgin Megastore. But like he did one there, and then LP is there, and we were just talking for like a hot second, and then fast forward, I ended up in a Run the Jewels music video, and I end up in the green room with LP and Killer Mike and Danny Brown. It's Danny Brown's music video. Shout out Danny Brown, and he invited me to the green room, and I'm talking to LP, and I'm telling him, I'm like, yo, I was in high school, and you went to the Virgin Megastore, and you was like, you did a show for Bazooka Tooth, and we're talking at the end, and I heard you say some crazy thing. You were like, yeah, we're looking for a band that is we're looking for a specific band that is into like super intergalactic funk or something like that. He like said something crazy. And so I bring up this story, and he's just like, he's telling me, he's like, yo, I kind of remember that, and I think it's because the people I were talking to were like these writers that I did not want to talk to. So I was just like, I'm holding on to this story for like years, and he's just like, yeah, this is just a throwaway. I'm over here being like, yo, he was serious about this. Like I was going on forums thinking, be like, I was on like underground hip hop forums and being like, yo, they're trying to branch out at Def Jux.
Yo, man, that's a dope story. And being able to meet LP and Danny Brown. Shout out to Danny Brown, Run the Jewels as well, Killer Mike. But yeah, I remember when I first heard LP was Deep Space 9mm.
Yeah.
And the video was so dope. And I was like, yo, what is this? This is so dope. And I found out he produced this music as well. And he was over Def Jux. So, shout out to Def Jux. That was a moment in time. And that kind of really helped me kind of expand my horizons in music when it comes to the underground sound, when it comes to alternative hip hop as well, like Stone's Throw Records and Rhyme Sayers as well.
Rhyme Sayers, yeah.
So underground hip hop, that was the joint. That was my joint. So you brought back memories with that. You brought back memories. So yeah, that was a great time because I feel like it blended music, blended sneakers as well, and I felt like it was a lot of originality and creativity as well during that time frame, and it really helped me expand my mind and horizon as well when it comes to all of that. So I want to get your opinion on this, right? Because I feel like it's an energy coming back when it comes to variety, when it comes to originality and creativity, like we were just talking about in the blog era and also in the 90s
Yeah.
and 80s as well. But I do feel like that energy is coming back when you think about different brands doing their thing, from Saucony, right, and so many other brands as well. Do you feel like that energy is back right now when it comes to variety of different sneakers and just originality?
I think we're getting there. I think we're seeing the
Okay.
rise of it. I think
Hmm.
we're trending that way because now that the bubble has bursted on resale and owning a resale
Yeah.
store and having the lucrative business of bots and all that stuff, I think that like we're trending towards the point where now these smaller brands are like, hey, let's capitalize on the people that are really expressing themselves through sneakers again, because
Yes.
I think we all fell into one point of just like copying what the timeline's copying, or copying what
Hmm.
like everybody else is, because it's like that's the hot shoe or whatever. And so, as we get out of this, and the variety is now here.
Yeah.
Plus, we're in an economy that we do have to be worrisome about how much we're paying for a lot of this stuff. That
True.
like the variety is going to help us, because yes, we're seeing the abundance of sneakers, but we're also seeing a lot of stuff go on sale. We're seeing a lot. We're
Yes.
getting extra chances to oh, we didn't get it when it came out. Now we can wait 2 weeks, go to the store, pick it up for like $10 off, and like get that chance to be like, all right, cool, I didn't miss out. Before, we were all just copping to just have it in case. It's like, in case of emergency, break out this fire pair. And it's just like, now you don't
Facts.
need to do that anymore. Yes, we'll have like the offshoots, like metallic fives. We'll have like, gamma 11s, these things that hearken to not just only just the people that are into sneakers, but the people
Yeah.
that missed out that first time it came out, or it's something that just like is iconic to them or iconic to the streets, and those will definitely sell out. But like,
Yeah.
now we're definitely in this moment where just like, people are taking chances, they're trying things. We've got a lot of like creators that are just talking about different types of sneakers,
Yes.
and honestly, in order to stay relevant in this, and try to like help like spread the variety. Because it's like, if you scroll through the same video, I mean, if you scroll through a video and they're talking about one shoe, and you scroll through the same, like you scroll through again and another video comes up and they're talking about the same shoe, and more than likely you're going to be turned off that you saw that shoe again.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
so like the variety is definitely picking up. And I think that like, yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good time to be a sneakerhead, and quote, some people hate that terms, but I think we're in a good time, because now it's not just hype, it's also just like, hey, collaborators are telling their stories. Hey, collaborators
Yes.
are taking a chance and telling your story, or like, a brand is
True.
telling your story, or maybe it's just a colorway that just like, yo, this colorway is crazy, I got to get this. So like, yeah, I think it's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with you, right? When it comes to like that grassroots movement is definitely back. I see it with J Tips. I
Mhm.
see it with the Saucony brand. I see it with the collaborators as well, what they're doing. So I definitely do love that part. And I feel like it is a great energy out right now. I really do. Because I feel like at once upon a time, like in the 2000s, early 2000s and
Mhm.
2010s, I mean, it was just really Nike and Jordan brand.
Yeah.
It was like the monopoly. It
Mhm.
was. It wasn't really no one else. If you wasn't rocking that, people looked at you crazy. But now, that's not the case no more. There's so much different variety. You got a lot of independent footwear designers in the game right now. So
Mhm.
I definitely agree with that part as well. That's definitely a good point that you made. It's something that you also made about collaborations, right? And we were just talking about that, and that's a
Mhm.
perfect segue because it's been a lot of talk in the current sneaker culture that it's too many collaborations, too many
Mhm.
retros, oversaturation of different sneakers dropping every other day, right? Sneaker culture.
Mm, I think that like when it comes to collaborating, I think there's a give and take. Some people are buying in. So
Hmm.
I had this like question that I posed uh to people on the internet, and like I didn't really get any like answer to it, but like when it comes to fame or like a shoe or something like that with a collaborator, are you buying into the collaborator themselves, or are you buying into the color, or or the material, or the X amount or whatever like that? And to me, I'm always a sucker for like a good story, and I think that like as long as somebody is telling a good story, that sells. Because if you look at like I think that, I mean, that sells like me personally. But like if you look at like somebody like Salehi, who kind of just like is doing these collaborations with New Balance, and he's like, oh, this is just like nature, and like these are just nature's colors and stuff like that. There's no real like enhanced story, and I think that like New Balance, a lot of New Balance collaborators do that. Besides Joe Freshgood's every single drop is like a chapter in a book.
Really is.
Yeah, so
it really is.
I think it's just like the way, I think it's just like if you are a person that's about intention and you want your collection to matter, then that's always going to be a standout, and it's good when it's told like that. But then you also have people that just like, I just want a good looking shoe. I don't care about why this shoe is brick red, like like I like it all depends on the person. Like sneaker culture is something that like I think it's like super easy to get into, but it's super hard to honor all the time, because you can meet 3 different sneakerheads and they'll tell you 3 different ways of how to honor sneakers, and it's like you got to just love it for whatever connected you with this, and then you bring that and you go, hey, this was dope because I went to skate park in Tampa and I got this shoe. Like, that's what it means to me. Or like, hey, this is dope because I grew up in Queens and I know what the hell he's talking about. Every single brick in Queens is damn red. Like, like, so it's just like, or even like, so Adidas has been doing such amazing work with Unheard Of and Phil Lipschutz, where he's incorporated a piece of his family into everybody's sneaker collection. If you've copped, like the grandma's couches, or if you cop the pork chop, piggy racers, like that's like you buying into the actual person, right? That's like you being like, I like this guy, I like what he stands for. These shoes are dope. I'm in. And it's like everybody has a different way of like collaborating, and I always just like, this is my analogy. This is from me working at GameStop for so long. I always tell people, be like, what console should I get? And I'm always like, get the console that all your friends are on, because you need somebody to play with, right?
That's true.
And for me, that's how I look at sneakers. I'm like, I'm gonna get the shoe that are like, that's gonna get all my friends talking about it. Like, I'm in this to be, getting the community. I'm trying to be in the group chat, being like, yo, did you get these? Like, that's it. So that's what I see collaboration doing more.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I do feel like collaborations have a lot of pros, and I can understand the cons of it as well, right? Because I think with a lot of brands, they'll collaborate with an artist, and they see the artist have a following. Then after they're done with the collaboration, they usually take their followers with them, and usually the collaborator is like, oh, I'm stuck, trying to create a new design. But at the same time, I do feel like it's fresh, and I do feel like you working smarter and not harder, right? It's not all on one person. And one thing I do like about collaboration, they are collaborating with a lot of people who might not be the commercial name, right? I feel like years ago you had to have like a commercial name, but now if you have a following and just really someone who have a passion, then you can get those collaborations. Like you just mentioned, Joe Freshgoods, right? He's an example of that. Like I mentioned, Jay Tibbs is an example of that. So I do like that. I do like that right now, right? So you don't need to be a mainstream commercial name to get the collaboration. like we've seen in the past.
Mm.
Okay, so that's dope.
I will hold
right
on,
there.
wait.
So
I will
go
say,
ahead.
because I didn't touch on oversaturation. I think that
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that collaboration oversaturation is definitely a thing, and that
Yeah,
I do think we need, like I said, I like collecting stuff or like buying stuff that's intentional. Like, so if a brand
yes,
is being intentional with the collaborations, then it makes more
that's
sense to
true.
me. So like you bring up J Tips, you bring up Saucony. Saucony definitely,
Mm,
you know, like I've had Jason on my podcast, who's the director of
yeah,
energy there, and one thing that is amazing about him is that he's not super front facing, but you know he's curating this thing like it's a goddamn
yes,
movie, right?
he really
And
is.
so everything has intention, from his organic ceramics, I think it's called, or even like the West Side Gun drop, where it's like, you know, the J Tips
Yes,
drop, where, you know, like all these collaborators the that he's worked with in order to get Saucony's name in the spotlight that it is currently right now within sneaker culture is very curated, because he is, as he said on the podcast, he's a watcher. He's the person that's like, I'm just
really
paying
is.
attention at, like, you know, who's the right person for this, or who's the right person for that. And I wish more brands did that. I wish it wasn't just like, oh yeah, you know, this person's got a crazy following, you know, let's give him a shoe. But like, let's not give him too much control for all over the shoe. Let's give
Yes,
him, you could take a color, but like we're gonna give you a Jordan whatever, and like now you got to do it,
yes,
you know. So I think intention is gonna always overshadow, because like if you look at
yes.
Easy
Hmm.
Otabor's Infinite Archive 17s, where he's like, you know, I want to honor the 17 correctly. You know, this is my first collaboration. Now I'm also gonna honor the people that came before me that worked on Jordans with
Hmm.
this color. Like, it's like that's intention. It's not like, yo, we got a brown with a big backward swoosh check, you know, like a backward swoosh, and now we're just gonna do that 18, 15 times, you know, like intention. That's what I think.
Intention.
Intention is
Yeah.
the important part.
Yeah, I agree with that. Shout out to Jason. He is really amazing, and I just love his scope of work. So, and what he's done with that brand has just been amazing right now.
Yeah,
So, shout out to Jason. Good dude. So, but no, I agree with that, and I think it's all about the attention. Intention. It really is, and I think if the intention is not, if it's not pure or authentic,
mm-hmm.
the people is going to see right through it. I feel like, in my opinion. So that's
Oh
a
yeah,
really
for
great
sure.
point. So let's talk about your podcast, right? Because it's really, and it's been so consistent. You've been having a lot of dope guests, and I love that about it. It's a lot of variety, versatility, dope stories as well. The stories is authentic, and I feel like right now in this space, right, it's a lot of clickbait that goes
Yeah.
on. So it's refreshing to hear that and see that as well. But what was the moment that made you want to create, your podcast with My First Kids?
I mean, you just answered it right there. Like, I mean, 2018, like the invention of the sneakers app really brought a lot of people into the internet just to complain, like, oh, I didn't get it,
Yeah,
you know, like, um and so like I kind of like cut back off of collecting out loud. I would just cop stuff and then just kind of like, I wasn't posting anything like that.
mhm,
I've always wanted to do a podcast. I just never found out what it would be. I've done two before, did one on video games, but like it's like you like, it's not a business I'm not going to be working in, so I'm just like,
mhm,
whatever. Me and my boy did it while we were working at GameStop. It didn't work well. Then the next podcast I did was in like 20, yeah, I think it's like 2018, and it was called Get Up on This 2.0, where we took over an older podcast. Oh no, it was 3.0. We took over an older podcast,
yeah,
and that was called Get Up on This with Jensen Karp and Maddie Robinson. And what the whole premise was just like, they're gonna bring in three things. Two is gonna be brand new things that you've never heard of that we think that you should be on, and then the last thing would be something old that, like, you know, you may have missed. And so the whole idea, I loved it because it was like, all right, we're digging. Me and my boy Derek, we took it over and we did 10 episodes, and I'm just like digging for new stuff. Like, yo, you should check this out. We did 10 episodes. I got the bug of like, yo, I really want to do a podcast. I was doing at the time. I was walking with my boy Gastor Almonte, and I was telling him, "Yo, I got this idea. We should do it. It's called My First Kicks. We bring on a guest. We ask them what's that first pair they need to have. Then they're gonna tell us like sneaker stories. It's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope." Gastor goes to me. He's like, "I'm not doing another podcast. I already got two." I'm like, "I'm not doing." I'm like, "Damn! I just pitched this whole thing. I was just gonna be me and you, bro." And then like, so I sat on it for 2 years. Pandemic happened, and then I was like, you know what? I got all this stuff. I might as well do it. I started it. Started off slow because I've never interviewed people. Like we would have guests on, get up on this 3.0, but like it was never to the point where it was just like I'm literally like, yo, it's me and you, we're gonna talk, blah blah blah. So like I started off very small with like people from Clubhouse and just being like, all right, cool, it's over Zoom. Let me just like get into the flow, figure it out. How can I be impressionable over the internet so it feels like we're in the same room? And it's also like, can I like it's the pandemic, so it's just like, yo, I wasn't having any other conversations besides this and like Xbox party chats, and like that was it. Like we weren't doing nothing, right?
Clubhouse was popping back then. It was.
Clubhouse was crazy.
Clubhouse was
crazy. And so after that happened, I did that for 2 years. I was doing it, like, and then there was a moment during this time of like, oh wait, I forgot. Sorry. My boy Iffy jumped on because he was like, yo, I love the idea. Let me do it. He was like one of the first like 10 episodes. And then he was like, yo, I want to be the co-host. We did this whole thing. And then and the whole point was like for him to jump on to help me so that he can be like, all right, cool, I'm off. And now you can do your thing now. And so he got busy, ended up writing for Twisted Metal. That came out 2021, I think it did. Check it out. Yeah.
Anthony Mackie was on that joint. On Peacock.
Yeah. I loved it. Definitely check it out.
Really good.
And then after that, it was like, all right, like the thing was just like, and this is the early stages of the podcast where it's just like, I had an idea what it was going to be. And I was like, yo, I got these questions. Y'all got to answer my questions. And then you're thinking like, damn, what if I get somebody that's not really into sneakers? How do I open it up more? And so like Iffy helped me with that a lot. So it's always shout out to Iffy for helping me along this way. And so like after that, I was like, you know what? I had a guest that I was like, I know he's from here. I know I can get him. I know I can get in a studio with him. I don't want to do it over Zoom anymore, especially not for this one. We need that energy. Let's switch it up. I found a studio. Shout out to my friend's basement. Took it to there. And then that's when it just started like the momentum started getting a little bit crazy because people saw it and like, they were like, yo, this is great. This looks great. And then it was just like, they started like buying into it. And then it was like more people were just like, yo, I want to be on. And I was just like, all right, cool, let's figure it out. And then that was like, because like two years in, it was getting real hard to book guests, right? People started going outside again. People didn't want Zoom calls no more. Like it was just like, so combating that, but also the people, like you got to also think about the listeners too, where they're just like I love podcasts, but like if I'm because I listen to podcasts for years, right, since iPod days. So like I'm like, what's the thing that I've always enjoyed about podcasts? And I'm like, it's the energy within the room. You can't beat. You can always push through like the difficulties of being online and like having that like you right now we're experiencing lag, like
it is a little bit of that,
so like in person you don't really get that. And so
no, you don't.
So once I started doing that, it's just started like doing the in-studio episodes just started like tumbling, and people started being like, yo, I really love checking the podcast. But on top of that, I was also going to events. I was also like going around New York City. I was going to ComplexCon every year to spread the word about the podcast, or just be like, I would talk to people and be like, yo, I got this podcast. Would love for you to be a guest, and then follow up, there's a ton of things, and it kind of just like it's where it is right now, where I can have like I got an episode with Deshaun Jordan coming up in like 2 weeks, so it's just like who has his own Nike SB, so that's why I brought him up. So like It's just like it's crazy.
I mean, that's really dope, and that story is really dope. Like you stand it, but also like what's so cool, and I've seen this in previous interviews. Like you a huge fan of podcasts. Like you saying during the iPod days, and you had, you started two
Mhm.
podcasts before, but you actually studies it. Like you study and listen to it
Mhm.
before it became a big thing, right? When you think about
Yeah.
podcasts, and knowing that, will you say that helped when it comes to starting your podcast and making it successful, and also your background in the entertainment industry? If I'm not mistaken, I think you worked at, was it Viacom? If I'm not mistaken, how's was
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Worked at
So
Viacom. Worked,
yeah,
yeah. I worked at MLB. Yeah.
MLB. Do you
But
think
like,
that helped a lot as well?
um, I think it's like so like I love a version of a podcast. Like I love a version. What I'm trying to build is like what I'm trying to make is always the version of the podcast that I listened to back in the day. Um, when I was working in entertainment, it was very like TV show based, right? It was just very like,
Hmm.
yo, we're pitching a show, check out this show,
Hmm.
and then mainly I worked in stand up. So like I would go, like when I was at Viacom,
Right.
I was working at stand up. So I would go watch stand up shows. And a lot of these comedians had podcasts. So I would like, all right, I would listen to it. Or I was listening to podcasts before that. Like, the first podcast I listened to was Tell 'em Steve Dave with like it's like Kevin Smith's friends. And so like
Okay.
Kevin Smith, and he had his whole View Askew network and he was doing his thing. And to me, I just love the idea of just like, yo, these are the friends chronicles and you get to just listen into their lives. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
these guys live a crazy life. So like that was always going to be my thing. And then my favorite podcast of all time is the Crab Feast, and so that's my they actually became friends with me. So I'm friends with them. I mean, Jay Larson and Ryan Sickler.
Wow. That's
If you,
dope. That's
yeah,
dope.
yeah. If you listen. If you listen to Coke Cabana's episode, they shout me out. They're like, "Yo, Hassan, thank you for putting this together." And I'm like, "Yo, this is crazy." But yeah, they both became my friends.
That's ill.
And so I like I just love stories, and I think podcast is the perfect place
Yeah.
to share stories. And so I'm very
Yeah.
opinionated about this because I think this is like we talk about oversaturation or collapse. I think podcasting is extremely
Yeah.
oversaturated.
Everyone
There's
is
a
getting
ton,
into podcasts now.
yeah.
Everyone.
2020 really blew it up as a platform to get
Yeah.
your thing, get your words off, and not really have to fact check
Yeah.
anything. And so now we're in this
That's
in
true.
the in this world that podcasting has built. Like podcast has gotten the current president elected. Like it's
Yes.
not it's not good. So
It's
when
not
I,
good.
I was on Sockchick's podcast and I was just like, I wish podcasting was fun again because it
No.
I think and I purposely listen to only just like comedian podcasts now where it's just like, they're not trying to push a political agenda or something like
Yeah.
that. They're just trying to like have fun or something like that. But I think that like there's power in words, and
It
now we're
is.
seeing how much power these words actually really have. And I like for me, the chip on my shoulder is to bring back the fun part of
Yeah.
sneakers
Yeah.
because I think this is the one thing where no matter any function, anything, you can be at a buffet line in the middle of Vegas. If
Yeah.
you got on a dope pair of kicks, somebody's gonna tell you a story
That's
about
so
like that
true.
time they got their favorite pair of sneakers. So like, yeah.
That's real. And something that you mentioned as well when it comes to podcasts, I think like during the pandemic when a lot of these brands and companies start throwing out that money, right? 6 figures, 7 figures
Yeah.
for podcast deals. We see it with Joe Rogan. T.I. was just talking about this. He said he would never stopped his podcast if they was throwing around his.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people got in trying to get a buck, and I think that's why the content is turned to clickbait because hey, this is what sells, right? And I feel like at once upon a time, you had to be something like a in like journalism. Like you had to have like a background or be associated with that.
Yeah.
But now, you don't, and that's why a lot of people ain't fact checked it or nothing like that. So I remember, like, the Combat Jack, that the
Yo, shout out.
podcast,
Shout
yeah,
out.
yeah, and
Iconic.
iconic. Shout out to Premium Pete.
Uh-huh.
Rest in peace to Combat Jack and
Rest
Dallas
in peace,
Penn.
Dallas Penn.
Those, that was one of the first podcasts I seen, and also with OSD. Shout out to OSD, the homie Sean and
Shout
D
out.
Wells. Yeah.
My
So
OGs.
yeah,
They always push me.
yeah, same here. They was the first people who really showed support for my brand and what I was doing. Because I was doing short films and I was combining comedy with sneakers. And they was like, yo, this is dope. And they always been supporting since day one. But it was one of the first people I seen do podcasts, and just the audio parts of it. It was just audio, it wasn't like video at the time. But it was really great. I was like, wow, like, that take a lot of courage just to be, because I wasn't a person who be in front of the camera. That wasn't me neither, like you mentioned. So, but just seeing what it's turned to now, it's like, wow, like it's a podcast about everything now. So how do? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I did have like a small rant about, like, I just had to get it off my head, but like working in it. I mean, you talked about my time in entertainment, and I talked about like people coming in to pitch shows and stuff like that. We live in a world now where it's like, and we talk about sponsorships, where and it's just like, if you don't have a fully fleshed show from beginning to end, you won't get a look now. You won't get that. Like, no brand's gonna be like, oh yeah, let's just like help you. Oh, you need help with like paying for this? They're like, nah. It's like, wow, you've gotta do years of like paying it yourself, and then maybe you'll make half of it back now. And it's like,
that's true.
Coming from like entertainment back the way it was done before, it was just like, all right, we're gonna give you a budget. All right, cool. Put the show together. Put the show together. We'll give you like a small budget, and if it makes it happen, you sell out like 30 seats. We call that a success. We'll give you a TV show. Like, that doesn't happen now. And like now we've got podcasts that are just like, every day we got one that's just like, I mean, even just now, Vince Carter and Tracy Morgan,
cousins. They got cousins.
They're dropping their stuff, and that's fully paid for, ready to go. Like, and it's like, all right, like, why not just like, and I said this earlier, why not just like, go on somebody else's podcast and help them? Like, I don't know if we need a brand new podcast, like for somebody to just pull up on for like, you're just gonna listen to it for the first two episodes. If the two episodes are like, okay, it's just like, why not just like, hey, we want to tell this story. We'll bring, the X amount of sponsors. We'll go on All the Smoke. We'll do 4 episodes. We'll do, and like, hook it up. Like, I don't see. I think we're in this like world in this podcast world where it's just like, if you don't have a name, it's gonna be clearly impossible to start getting the shine. It's tough.
It is tough.
You gotta get out there.
Tough. Definitely. And I think, like you mentioned, getting outside and traveling, that plays a huge part. And not only that, I think, you gotta have a passion for it. I feel like if you want to be in it for the long-term haul, right? And I think it's only like a select few that I personally, in my opinion, that have that and like studies it and like, okay, you know what? The people I have on my show, I really enjoy them. Like, I'm a fan of. Like, every guest I had, like, I really enjoy their work or I'm a fan of. And I think a lot of times in the podcast space, especially the ones that's paid for, to have people on their show they don't even know about. They don't even know their history at times. So, like, for example, I remember I had Sky Zoo. Shout out to Sky Zoo.
Shout out Sky Zoo, man.
I've been listening to him since MySpace days, since I was in. That was like the soundtrack of my life in college. So having him come on the show, or Mickey Fax and guys like that, or Dalvin Gentry from Die Start Monday. Those people, like, I'm a fan of. And I rock with their work and stuff like that. So I think I would love to see that element, come back. I think it's
Yeah.
like a small sector of that in the podcast space. So with all that being said, right, what keeps you motivated? Right, what keeps you motivated and thriving in this space?
Mm, I mean, countless of things, but
Yeah,
just the stories, to be honest, like the
yeah,
conversations, like there,
yeah,
you know, I always tell people that ask me, well, I always tell people that ask me for advice, like, and I remember the first thing somebody told me was just like, if you're gonna do a podcast, you need to pick something that you can talk about endlessly,
yeah,
because if you if you're picking something that you like, you feel like it's got like a shelf life to you, then you're never gonna be able to have, the success of,
true.
like, someone like a Rogan, where he got spot, like, sure, he was already a comedian and stuff like that,
Yeah,
but like he at like episode 400 is like somebody's first episode, and he was only maybe at like 10,000 views or whatever, listens at that time. Like, you never know when it's going to be that moment, and so if you pick something that you can easily talk to somebody about every single day of your life, then that's gonna make it easier.
yeah,
So to me,
yeah,
sneakers has always been that. Sneakers, video games, anime, but I feel like anime at some point, or it's like I come in and out of it. Like, I'll be like, all right, I'm in. I'll watch a ton of stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'm out. And then I don't watch it for like 6 months. But like, sneakers is something that, like, I'm always looking forward to
yes,
every single time. Like I'm always just like, oh, cool, this is coming out. Oh, that's dope. All right, cool. Oh, and or the one thing that proves that I'm like insane is that I will think of, like, I'll wake up and think about a random shoe, and I'll be like, oh yeah, you remember 95? Like, remember Neon 95s, like when they came out, like that's how I'd wake up. Like that'll be my first thought. Or
yeah,
like, well, it's mostly like SBs. I'll be like, yo, what about the Paul Brown SBs? Like I would literally wake up like that, and so
yeah,
to me it's always going to be sneakers. And so I I love you, and I love hearing people's stories of, like,
yeah.
like that, because a lot of people just light up in their eyes of just being
They
like, yo,
do.
this is, I remember that time, and so I think it's like, when in my head, like when I look at people, when they answer that question, I just remember just them going back in time and remember like what it was to be like a kid. And so
Yeah, really does.
it's like the purest form of joy. Like when you get in that first pair, it's like it doesn't beat it. And so,
It's
like,
nothing like it.
yeah.
It's nothing
So,
like
like, yeah.
it. No, I love that part because the conversations, it helps me a lot. I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of people notice, but like when I have the guests on the show, I could be having a not so great day, but when we start talking, it just changes everything.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing unifier. Like it unites and brings people together from all different walks of life when it comes to just sneakers overall. So I love that. I love that. And also, you had the honor of being selected for Nice Kicks for the sneaker of the year for the committee.
Mhm.
I think you got selected last year as well, if I'm
Yeah.
not
2 years
mistaken.
in a row.
So
Yeah.
2 years in a row. So what was your pick for sneaker of the year?
Wait, the sneaker of the year, like the pant, like sneaker of the year, like in general, or sneaker of the year on that panel?
Like in general,
In
sneaker of the year in
general,
general. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it late comer, but it's the Lambs Air Force Ones. That's my
Mm.
sneaker of the year. So if
Ooh,
you watch on the 23rd in 2 days, the my favorite pickups episode that was shot from the Grindhouse. Make sure y'all check this out.
okay.
It's on my story. Follow the Grindhouse Inc. But like, we're dropping an episode of, like, it's called My Favorite Pickups. I talk about how the Lambs Air Force One is my sneaker of the year, because I used to do graffiti. I'm just gonna say I used to do graffiti, and so my favorite thing was always finding a Post No Bills wall and just
Okay.
hitting it up and hitting it up. So, if you hip hop, you gotta be, breakdancing, graffiti, like, you gotta know the five tenets. If you ain't part, then you're not hip hop. If you're not hip hop, like, so I'm a big graffiti head. big graffiti head, and so
I know Nas
this
just did a song
shoe,
about graffiti, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. I know Nas
yeah,
just did the
I
Light
know,
Years
yeah,
project with Primo, which was
light years,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, it
it
was
was great,
crazy.
yeah. I
Yeah,
was like, oh snap! Like he was just naming off
he
people,
just naming
Doggy,
all them.
Dolly,
I'm
like
like,
Trill.
yo.
I was like, whoa. I it's funny. It's funny. I was with Stash. I was with Mr. Stash like I think the day after that drop. And I'm like, yo, did you listen to that Nas song? And I'm like, you got a shout out. And he's like, yeah, I got a shout out in it. And I was just like, yeah. I was
Stash
like,
is legend, man.
shout out Mr. Stash.
Yeah.
But like that shoe is like me because I guess me and the Lambs guys, the future guests of the podcast, that we all grew up around the same time. And on the paper, it spots the route that if you grew up in during that time, that's the route you would take to do. You hit up DQM, Clientele, Supreme, like Transit, like those are all you would hit to hit up to like check out what came out that day. And so they have it on the paper. The shoe is based on graffiti. The insoles are insane with the wall in it. And so to me, it just spoke to me that like because before that it was the brick, because I'm from Queens. I see the brick is like the brick fours are just like, that was like, it spoke to me because it like I'm building this podcast by brick. It's going at it. Yeah. I'm from Queens. I see that brick, and so that spoke to me. But yeah, those Lambs Air Force Ones is my sneaker of the year because of how it intertwines just like my love for sneakers, graffiti, like that.
It all comes together, the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
When you think about that. And it's really all part of the culture, right? Graffiti, sneakers, it's all the same culture when you think about it. So that's really dope. I love the meaning behind that, and why that's your favorite sneaker. It's not like the typical sneaker we all think of, right? But I love that. So
yeah.
And it also
shout out to the Lamb, Leo. They blessed me. So like they signed my box and everything.
That's ill. That's ill with that. So yeah, and before we go, right, I always ask the guests, right, if they want to showcase any of their favorite sneakers they got in their possession. So I didn't know if you want to showcase any of your favorite joints that you got in your possession right now.
All right. We're gonna start off with the since we talked about Phil, I got the Unheard Of Grandma's Couch 2.0, the green colorway, the Friends and Family colorway. The reason why these will always get pulled out is because this is the first time I ever got flown out to host a live podcast. Shout out Phil for giving me that opportunity. Breaking the shoe on the podcast
that's dope.
And shout out to the Sneaky Leak Pod for co-hosting that with me. But like very dope moment in my life.
Shout out to the Sneaky Leak podcast. Dope. They dope.
Then we've got the Fog SBs. Pink box, baby.
Oh my goodness.
I still got the $100 price from the Dunk Exchange. I copped them at the Dunk Exchange.
That's a nice deal. And the quality is so dope. And it's perfect for this season right now as well. I feel like it's perfect. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. These are my second pair, but the first pair I used to hoop in. And so very dope. Funny.
I commend you for hooping them because they don't got no.
They got nothing. Now, my ankle was. I used to go to the doctor. I used to spray my ankle all the time in them too, and be like, "Oh, why am I spraining my ankle?" Because they're like, "There's nothing in here."
Nothing at all. You was clean on the court though. You was clean on the court with those joints though.
I was all right. Fun fact. So Deshaun Jordan was just the episode comes out. So his shoe is based on the low version of these that came out. And that was like one of his first like shoes that I think it was like he skated in them, and then he was like, I need if I ever get my chance to make my own Nike SB, they're gonna be like the Fog lows are gonna be the base. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but you'll see it in the episode. The shoe. And then
Yo.
finally we're gonna go with these. My signed Tinker Hatfield. What is it again? 14? No. 14? No.
14s.
These are 14s? 13s. 14s. Yeah.
14s.
My bad. Look, I'm bad with numbers. Leave me alone.
14s. I had to think about it. Like, hold on. Yeah, they're the 14s.
14 signed by Tink. Got to go to Portland last year for the gathering. Got to meet Tinker Hatfield.
That's dope. That's dope. And you got him signed by the legend, arguably the greatest designer of all time. So, yeah, that's some bucket list type stuff right there. Yeah. So that's dope. And all those joints you showcase is really dope. And what I love about it, right, it's the connection that you have with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the connection that you have with each pair of the sneakers, something special, something sentimental as well. And that's what makes it so dope as well when you think about that with all those 3 joints that you just displayed. So that's what I love about that. So that's really dope. All right. So far this year, before we go, right, it's a stacked year, I feel like, when it comes to sneaker releases. But do you have any early picks for your sneaker of the year so far? I know it's early right now, but as far as what you have seen that you know that's coming out this year, is it any joints that you're anticipating?
That's a tough question. I don't know. I mean, I'm even thinking like my must cops, but the problem is like, only so much, and then all of a sudden they're like, yo, bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, oh man. I might go Westside Gunn Jazz 9. Like the red with the scorpion on it.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Maybe those or the I might even go a GR, like give me a Hyperflight, because that's one of my favorite shoes.
Yeah. The Hyper Flights, yeah, you can't go wrong with that. No, I think it's still early, but it is supposed to be. It's a lot of dope joints that's going to release this year, so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to an underrated sneaker that come out of nowhere. I know you mentioned Westside Gunn. I love the release he had back in December. My Saucony's glowing, and also he dropped a dope EP to go along with it as well. But I love that sneaker. I think it's really dope. I love the quality of it. And that was a sneaker that when he officially set the release date, I'm like, oh snap, this is like my sleeper pick of the year. One of my favorite sneakers actually that dropped late last year. So I'm looking for a sneaker like that to drop. I don't got him. I don't got him, but I got him. You got him? I want him.
That's it. Boxing's gonna fall.
That's crazy. Have you even rocked them yet?
Nah, I'm waiting for. I'm either might be tomorrow. It might be tomorrow. Might be the day, or might be like next recording or so, something like that.
Okay, that's crazy.
Either that or I save it for when Westside pulls up. So
yeah, true. That would be a great way. That'd be a great way to pull some joints out. But I just want to say thank you, Hassan. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Love what you've been doing. It's really great. Like I mentioned earlier, the stories that you speak about, connect with the viewer, with the guest. It's really dope. And I think that's something that we need right now in this space, and it's really knowledgeable and it's great. So I like that. I love that. And also the guests that you have, you can tell that you're a fan and you respect their works.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes it so dope. So
I mean, you gotta. My curation of the podcast is definitely around me being intrigued by said person. You know, and I think that is a core value everybody should have when you're interviewing somebody. Don't just like take a guess to take a guess, right? Like, I'd rather have a really good conversation with somebody that not everybody may know about, but because I know about them and I want to know more about them, then I would rather just have like a big name on the couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that 100% because there's so many dope stories out there that needs to be told.
Mhm.
So I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Thank you to everyone that tuned in to Yo, It's the Kicks. So appreciate everyone. So we're gonna sign off. Peace and love life, everyone.
Peace.